Hi guys and welcome back. Are you new into taking photos with the DSLR camera? Do you turn the knob into auto mode and just shoot like crazy? In this video I will try to explain, in a bit different way, how to take control over your camera settings and make you understand how to affect the image in the way you want. First of all, we need light to take a photo. There are three main ways you can control your DSLR camera regarding the light settings. It's the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. I'm not going to go too deep into how these three factors affect your photo today. I just try to explain the relationships between them and how changing one of them affects the other. Let's pretend this jug with red liquid is light. Your DSLR camera has something called a light metering system. That means the camera will tell you when you have the correct exposure. So in this case I've used this system and the camera tells me that the ISO of 400, a shutter speed of 1/60 of a second, and the aperture set to 4 will give me the correct exposure. So let's fill the red liquid, which in this case is the light, into each of these glasses, which is the ISO glass, the shutter speed glass, and the aperture glass. Let's take a photo. Yeah, as we can see, the exposure is good. Yeah, now, let's say you want to go all the way to ISO 100 in your next photo, just to maximize the amount of details and minimize the amount of grain in your picture. So we will need more light in the ISO glass here, since ISO 100 makes your sensor in the camera less sensitive to light than the ISO 400 will. And the only way to do this is to take some light from one of the two other glasses and fill it up in the ISO glass. So we choose to take light from the shutter speed glass. Since I'm using the tripod today, we don't need to be afraid of any camera shaking, as you will be when you're hand holding during your shooting. Let's fill the ISO glass up here, and all the way up to the 100 mark. So now we ended up having a shutter speed below 1/15 of a second, let's say 1/6 of a second. And the aperture is still the same since we haven't taken any light from that glass. Let's take a new photo with this setting now. Yeah, as we can see, we still have the correct exposure. This is because we compensate the lower light sensitivity of the sensor by having the shutter open longer and let the sensor be exposed with more light. So this time you decided you want a greater depth of field in your photo. You want more objects behind the glass to be sharp. To make this happen, you will need to have a smaller opening in your aperture, a higher f-stop number. This will make less light passing through your lens and hit your sensor in the camera. And we still just have the amount of light which is in the glasses to play with. So since the shutter speed glass is almost empty at the moment, we decide to take some light from the ISO glass and move to reach a higher f-stop number. And we also put some back in the shutter glass now. Now we're ending up having about 2500 ISO number left in the glass, but we have increased the f-stop number to f16. This will give us a better depth of field. But of course, this comes with the backside. By having this high ISO number will give you more grain and less detail in your image. So let's change the camera settings into this and take a new photo. And as we can see, the exposure is still good. We have a greater depth of field, which was the purpose, but there's more grain in our image now. So this time we will have something that moves in the frame when we take the photo. I will let this orange rolling through once we capture the image. We will start with these settings we have right now and see the result of it. And as we can see in this photo, the orange has motion blur. This is because the shutter at this setting is open 1/30 of a second. And that is too long time to be able to freeze the orange. So, how do we solve this situation if we want the orange to be frozen and sharp in the picture? Yes, we need to have a faster shutter speed. This means we have to sacrifice and take light from one of the other glasses. So we decided to take it from the aperture glass. We don't care if the depth of field will be short, as long as we can use a shorter shutter speed to freeze the orange. So we ended up having an aperture of f4. The shutter speed is now faster, it's 1/500 of a second, and the ISO is unmoved and still 2500. So let's take the same photo with these new settings now, with the orange rolling through again, and see what it looks like. So now we can see the orange is being freezed. This is because the shutter is just open 1/500 of a second. That is enough to avoid the motion blur. The aperture went down to f4, and we can see the depth of field is a little bit shorter again. So now, get out, put your camera in the manual mode, and have some fun trying to understand how the relations between the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture actually works. So I hope you liked this video, guys. If you did, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up.